Welcome to Survivor Michigan All-Stars Episode 4 After Show. I'm here with some very special guests, so let's have them introduce themselves, starting with Cooper. You're first on my screen, so.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Cooper Rock. I'm from UConn. I played in some UConn seasons. I've edited some UConn seasons, and I'm also hosting a UConn season. So, yeah.
Awesome. You want to go, Ari?
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Ari. I am the president and founder of Survivor Georgia Tech. And I'm a super big Survivor Michigan super fan, so I'm very excited to be here.
Awesome. And I'm Mike. I was in season 2 of Michigan Survivor, rode Sarah X's coattails pretty far, and it's kind of my claim to fame, I'm pretty sure.
So lots of love for all of you guys in the thread. So all right, let's just let's get into it a bit. What did you guys think of that episode?
I was pretty sad for Will. He was actually one of my favorites. He's great behind the camera. And Ian, one of the things I wanted to ask you is, does he film himself, or had he filmed himself for each of those like full 45-minute rides? Or
yeah, his videos are like, all of his videos are like an hour long of him driving, just him like telling you everything he could. He has more videos than, I think for week 1, he had more videos than like a decent number of people had for like the entire season. Like, something like 500 to 600 minutes of footage, I want to say, for 1 week.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It was definitely very more emotional than I expected it to be. I wasn't expecting like Will to sit down with Kevin right before Tribal and everything. And it was just very, You also have the little things at the end of every episode where the person who goes home and you see them their first season. And it's like, I love that you put those in, but they're kind of sad too.
Yeah. So a few, like some insider tidbits about this one. This was the first one of those like goodbye montages that I made. Like, this was the episode that gave me the idea to do it, was because I was like, oh, it'd be like, this is so sad. Like, it'd be fun to give like a goodbye montage for Will. And then I was like, wait a second, we should do this for everybody. Like, this would be so great. It's such a great way to like wrap up each person's story, because this is like the end of their, like Survivor Michigan journey for each one of them. And it's like a slightly nicer way to have them go off than getting, the torch snuffed.
Even though he didn't really get his snuffed, it didn't quite get that. That
he was like, "There's no flame there." I was like, "Oh no."
Yeah.
And what was he carrying? Was it like it looked like a bottle of
it's some San Pellegrino. It's like sparkling water. Yeah.
I was thinking just like, carrying around a liquor bottle, like
no, it wasn't straight booze. It wasn't. That would have been hilarious though. Leia was drinking quite a bit at that Tribal though.
Yeah, all those beers spilled.
Yeah. So Mike, I was excited to have you on because this episode is sort of a combination of a couple previous episodes. In particular, the Daniel. Right. People always said that this is similar to the Daniel blindside from season 2, but on like a much more extreme scale. So having like, you've played with Kevin and Bailey. Right. Did this give you any sort of flashbacks to what that was like?
So I actually loved having Kevin on my tribe because he was always just like, when I first joined Survivor, I was like, I want to be very smart about not, coming on too strong or making too much of like a role. Because on my season, you had to pick like a leader of the tribe. And I was like, no one was speaking up. And then Kevin's just like, oh, I'll do it. And like Kevin was always just like putting a target on his back from my perspective. So I liked having Kevin around. I always felt like he was someone we could just kind of go after if we needed. But I mean, after watching that episode, it's very clear to me that, you don't want to get too close to Kevin. Otherwise, you're just going to get burned like Icarus almost.
What are some of you guys' thoughts on, Will's relationship with Kevin and kind of how that turned out?
Oh, I thought Cooper put it pretty well. Like the one thing throughout all these episodes is Will's clearly been like, all right, these people don't trust Kevin, but I trust Kevin and I want Kevin in on this. And Cooper's like, you're trading an ally for an ally. And it was definitely, I don't really understand. I don't even think that Kevin could explain it to Will. I don't really know what happened there, but it was definitely very sad.
Yeah, I'm a really big Kevin fan. I think that he's so entertaining to watch, but I also felt really bad for Will, and so I didn't want either of them to go home, but kind of glad Kevin stayed because he provides a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm hoping he flips another table. That was actually so funny how like everyone just went silent after he flipped the table. Like I don't know what he was expecting to happen, but yeah. Are you okay, dude?
Do we feel like this was, a good move for Kevin? Like, how do we think this is gonna turn out for him?
Based on Jackson's confessional, not super good. Assuming that he thinks he's getting in with Jackson and Megan, but
yeah,
it didn't seem like a good move to me.
The whole time too, he's like, "Oh, Megan and I are like really close," and then you have Megan, who's like, "I don't even know this guy." Like, it was definitely. I think Bailey said in her like voting confessional too. She's like, "We're not letting him get that far." So I don't know. I feel like he definitely was probably on the bottom of that like original sangria though.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was unfortunate that Will ended up kind of being his only option to vote off on Sangria because, like, Cooper wouldn't let Leia go home, and then Bailey obviously didn't want Emily P gone. And then Will was, like, the only one who really trusted Kevin. But I don't think that Kevin had that much longevity with Sangria, so I think it might not be terrible that he flipped on them.
Only time will tell.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to see. And then, how did you guys feel about just kind of sort of the pitches that Will was giving to try and keep himself in the game? Like, do you think that would have swayed you if you had been Cooper or Andrew or Bailey? It seemed like Andrew was somewhat swayed by it, but ultimately it didn't go that direction. What do you guys think about Will's attempts to save himself?
I think they would have been a lot better if I think Jesse wasn't like coming back onto the tribe. I think it made the most sense because you have like a divided kind of original like red. So that way, obviously, like you have him coming back or her coming back, and it kind of like makes it worse. Maybe if she wasn't coming back, they'd be more willing to because they would have a majority there.
I think it's hard to follow someone's pitch when you know they're scrambling, and to know how much they're really trying to like commit to a game with you. But I feel like Will is someone that I would have wanted to work with. Like he does seem like someone who's really loyal and doesn't seem like he is overly manipulative, just rather like kind of come up with a plan that makes sense and go through with it, which I feel like that's what me and Sarah did for the most part in season 2. So I feel like if he was someone that I did want to work with, that could be a good opportunity to jump on that. But unfortunately, it didn't seem like anyone really took the bait there.
Yeah, that was tough. What did we think of some of the other stuff going on in the episode? We come off of the previous episode, and now we have Sam kind of spreading around that Megan and Jackson are dating, and we have Jackson later finding an idol. I don't know, some of the other non-sangria stuff. Did anyone have any thoughts on that? We had Adam doing this shower confessional, getting kind of close to showing some interesting parts of himself. How do people feel about all of that?
Personally, I'm like, I don't know how much you've seen, Ian, but these confessionals are going from like shirts off, clothes off. Now we're in the shower. Like, I don't even want to know what out of the episode. Definitely some interesting ones. I haven't seen a shower confessional before.
Survivor unrated, uncut.
Yeah, there's definitely some pretty scandalous confessionals being sent in.
Yeah, careful watching those bonus scenes.
That's great. I think Sam though has played an awesome game. I don't know if he's going too big too early, but like it's been really fun to watch. Having played with Sam and really didn't have much of an opportunity to actually play the game with Sam, just happened to be in his season. It's cool to see him doing what he's doing. Like I feel like if he can kind of continue to ride where he's at, and he got to pick the tribe and pick basically all his allies right next to him, he seems to be in a good spot.
I agree. I think Sam, like I think he's a very good character and like a good villain for the season. He has like these really like high highs, and then you have these lows. Like when he was picking the tribes, I'll say this. I thought it was very questionable the people that he chose. Because this is
Interesting.
All-Stars. You want to like make connections with people you weren't on a tribe with. And then he picks everybody like but Megan that was on the tribe. And when he picked Aaron too, I was like, oh no, like what really there's so many other people you can meet. But then he like bounces back and he like has a plan, like throwing like Emily P under the bus. Like he's like so back and forth, and it's interesting to watch.
Yeah, Ari, what did you think about Sam's picks? Him picking Aaron, a pretty brutal move, some might say.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really hard because I'm a big Aaron fan and a big Sam fan, so it hurts that they're like kind of against each other. And just like the fact that he picked her when she was like clearly on the bottom was just I thought it was a bold choice.
Didn't she like throw the rock? Like I couldn't quite tell what happened there, but like she was
when she
notably
took her
upset.
buff off, she was like, ugh, like she wanted gone.
What do we think of this challenge? I remember in the moment, I was really shocked that Cooper was able to take down Sam. I remember that was one of the most shocking moments of the whole season to me, because to me that was like the underdog story of the century. Cooper throwing Sam to the ground. I was like, where did this come from? I've never seen this before out of you, Cooper.
I was surprised by that too, because I remember going up against Sam in the Steal the Bacon, and he is not easy to take down. One of the things though that was actually probably my favorite part of the whole episode is I have this like inside joke with just myself, where like that Cooper only wears Maze shirts. And when he ripped off his Maze hoodie to have a Maze t-shirt under it, like I cracked up just sitting here by myself. Just like, of course he's got double Maze on. Like I just picture he's like Charlie Brown, like trying to figure out what shirt to wear. And it's just the yellow streak. And instead of like the little ugly brown stripe, it's just like different Michigan decals. But that was like one of my favorite parts of the episode.
Yeah, that was definitely good. I feel like all like 3 rounds of the challenge had a very different strategy each time. Like the first one was just like literally just tackle each other. The second one, you have like Aaron sticking her foot out to get on the mat. And then the third one, I think it was Adam who just like found it, pretended he didn't, and then ran. So it was definitely a really good challenge to watch. I really like the idea of using the volleyball court too to like dig in the sand.
How do you guys feel about the swap in general? You know, just kind of how it broke down, people's different picks besides Sam, maybe some of the other picks, Jesse, how Jesse factors into it, you know? Any thoughts? Mike, were you there for when Kevin, you guys did the captain's draft in season 2?
That's right.
And so, you know, what do you think goes into like what kind of things you want to be thinking about when you're doing that if you're the captain?
Yeah, that's right. Kevin was the captain. I'm trying to remember how that draft kind of played out. I think in our season, and Ian, you probably know better than I do, but I think it was like the next person got to pick the next person on the tribe. So it wasn't like a true schoolyard pick.
No, it was a true schoolyard pick. The twist
Okay.
was just that the captains were going to end up on the minority no matter what. So like
Okay.
the way it worked was that Kevin was going to end up with like a minority of people from his original tribe. So you need to like be smart about who you pick or you get voted out, you know?
I like the way you go about it though, because I think it like there's a lot of different strategies. It seemed like for the most part, people tried to surround themselves with people they wanted to play with. When they were picking, I thought you were going to do 4 small tribes. So I think that was a nice like twist when they had to combine. So basically the thought process there, right? If you had surrounded yourself with the people you want to work with, you're in a good spot. But then if you're like Sam, who throws Aaron in there at the end, it's like, okay, he's got his two close allies, but Aaron is not going to work with them. So he's already lost the numbers.
It's difficult because if there is this 4 tribe dynamic, you want people that you're good with.
Right.
But at the same time, you also want to make these connections with new people, and you don't like clearly like the red strong here didn't work out. Like you do not want to be a part of this, like, oh, I'm strong, because then you just cut off so many other people who like don't want to talk to you because you're clearly with these people. So it's a weird thing to balance.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting the way that people thought Jesse didn't have any strategy when dividing the tribes, because I honestly like didn't think so either at first. But it actually made a lot of sense that she had Leia and Bree on like opposite tribes that she knew like both wanted to work with her and protect her.
That's interesting because I was trying to think about like what kind of strategy do you really even employ there? Like, are you trying to put together a dream team squad and hope they lose, or are you just trying to hedge your bets, like you're saying?
Yeah. I thought it was interesting that she didn't want the tribe to lose that did, because that was the tribe that had the most sangria. So you would think like that would be the tribe where she would feel the most safe.
I also thought that was interesting. I wonder if she like wanted to maybe like separate herself from Sangria, or she had other people like connections she had. But I think if that was me and I was on the spot, I'd probably just go with, okay, like who spread my allies out the same way she did. And nobody really thought about that. They're like, oh my God, she's like stupid. She just did the two standing next to each other. But she's thinking. They just don't think she's thinking.
Yeah. I thought it was important to show that like the perception the others have of her isn't quite accurate to like what she's actually thinking at this moment in time, you know? What else? I don't know. Was there anything else that immediately stood out to you guys, or big thoughts you have? Predictions? Who do you think goes next from that tribe if they lose again?
I feel like they're so scared of Jackson's potential idol that I don't think they try and target Megan. I don't think that I would be scared to target Megan because like, oh, he'll just give you an idol. You know what I mean? So I wonder if they keep going for Red but like maybe I think Jessie could maybe be screwed if she comes back, because you have the Bailey and like the Bailey connection with Emily, you have the Cooper connection with Leia, and then you have like Crouch, but like they're also like don't want to touch him. So maybe Jessie could be in danger.
Yeah. I'm also really curious to see, because like after seeing Jackson's idol, which I think is real, I don't think like Emily B or Andrew have the real Pringle idol. So I feel like maybe somebody else has it. And so I want to know who it is.
Who would that be, you think?
I don't know. I mean, in my heart, I hope it's Kevin, but I think Kevin would have played it tonight if he had it. So
yeah,
so you don't think that idol that Andrew has is real that we saw today?
Not really, no.
I definitely couldn't figure it out either. I was like, I thought I knew who had it, and then I was turning, and I was like, maybe they don't have it. And that's like honestly, I wouldn't put it past Ian. Maybe somebody else does have it, and they're just pretending like these two might.
Yeah, because I think Shannon even said like, does Crouch have it? Like, does Emily Beast have it? Like, maybe somebody else has it.
Yeah.
Did she say that? I don't know. I'll have to watch it again. I don't know if I remember what she said exactly, but that's interesting. It's an interesting theory. We'll have to see how it pans out. Well, while we have you guys on real quick, also, like, what did you guys think of the whole Abby leak situation? This is going back a bit, but it was clearly a really controversial moment, and I'm curious what the three of you thought about it. Mike, obviously you played with Abby. Is this something you would have ever expected out of her?
I mean, no. It's an interesting twist. I appreciated the way that it was documented, like just the panic from production, just like, oh, this is so bad. But like, there's part of me too that's like glad that kind of came out and became a factor in the game. Now it's just a tough position. I'm a little surprised she did it, because it is just like completely blowing up Jackson and Megan's game in a lot of ways, but definitely good for TV.
Yeah.
You guys, what do you guys think you would have done? You guys both have like run survivors and stuff. What do you think you would have done in this situation?
I think you guys did the best thing possible, which is just like,
Right.
All right, lockdown mode. We're not telling anybody else anything. Like, we just have to go to those people and tell them, like, you weren't supposed to hear this. I think that was the way it was handled. I also like seeing the real time, like, production conversation too. That I think was really insightful to be like, oh, okay, like, this is not good. I'm glad it happened now and not like at the merge or like at like Final Four or something. But yeah, it was definitely like, I'm kind of glad she wasn't cast on All Stars, not gonna lie, because I feel like, do you really have like that much respect for the game if you're breaking it like that? I don't know.
So there was a question in the thread Or Ari, did you want to comment on the Abby situation at all before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, we're about to start our second season right now, and so thankfully we haven't had any problems like that yet, but I think the way that y'all handled it was really great.
So somebody commented about the legality of Jessie having a role in events when she's like exiled. And the way that we ran the game, there was nothing. She was totally allowed to talk to everyone. Technically speaking, she was immune for the week. And like I just called it exile like on the show because I figured it's something people are more familiar with. It was an easy way to describe it. But there was nothing barring her from talking to anyone in the game. So she was perfectly legal to do anything that she did.
Basically, that sounds like the best way to do it. I think they're in college. There's no way you could be like, all right, stay off your phone. You're not allowed to have any contact with these people.
Right. It would be a very difficult thing to implement in a college season. I'm sure someone has, but it would be a hard thing to do, I think.
Yeah. Especially on All-Stars.
Yeah. Yeah. What else? I mean, like in the battle of Kevin versus Will, who do you guys prefer? You know, if you have to choose a champion.
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, before we start this, I thought I missed the episode title. I was like, where's the episode? Oh, maybe he just like didn't put it in. I was like, oh, am I just a dumbass? Did I miss it? And then it comes on, and you're like, oh shit, here we go. And I thought that was a really great way to do that. The music and everything. You're just like, oh no. But I don't know. It was hard for me both because I was kind of like, they were both interesting to watch. So I didn't really know if I like had a specific side. I feel like they're just like breaking up, which is like crazy. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I felt. I mean, I think they're both very entertaining. It was one of those situations where I didn't want either of them to go, but I feel like each week it's been kind of the same way where it's a really good cast. I feel like I like the vast majority of the characters. So I feel like each week you're just going to be like, bummer to see that person go. So, you know, even last week, because I really like Dylan and I like Sam. And it was another situation where one had to go, especially when they had already tied. So I don't know. I just feel like we're going to get more and more of this as the episodes go on.
Yeah, I would definitely say that the scene between Will and Kevin at the end of the episode, I would say is really a tease for what this season is going to be all about ultimately, which is, you know, people who do feel really close to each other in real life, either, you know, romantically or real true friendships coming to this point where they're going to have to do bad things to each other. And how's that going to impact them all in different ways? So yeah, I would say that this was sort of the first moment when it was all going down. And last week's Tribal 2 with Adam and Megan crying, but you know, Adam and Megan aren't like super close friends with Dylan in real life. This was the moment when it was like Kevin and Will were like really good friends, and you were just like, whoa, this is intense now.
Yeah. There's a lot. You could already in a few episodes too. You saw Aaron and Dylan specifically. Like, I love that you showed, I think it was Chloe who came down. Aaron's like, I don't want to talk to these people. They just voted Dylan out. And like Chloe comes in, like there's a very like human moment. And I appreciated that too, because it does get really stressful when you're friends with these people. And like, I think Emily P was even saying like, I've been kissing Cooper's ass for like a year or something. And it's like, people like take this so seriously. And it goes back so much further than you would expect.
Yeah, I think like you have to have kind of experienced something like this or like College Survivor to really realize like how deep it becomes, you know. And for these people, it's like a whole different level beyond that because they have already done it once before and they're like already friends with each other.
I've really actually appreciated that component of it because, and Ian, we were talking about this just texting. Like, it really feels like a college experience where like people are going to Charlie's and other like classic bars and meeting up for drinks. Whereas like, you know, when I played, I didn't know anyone going in. And I was a senior. So it's not like that was the start of a lot of new friendships necessarily, but it is cool to see these are people who really know each other, who have history outside the game. And I love to kind of feel like it is truly like kids in college who are just kind of playing the game of Survivor. And it has that feel for me, especially as someone who went to Michigan, to be like, oh yeah, there's Charlie's, good times there. There's that bar, this place. So I've really liked that in watching this season.
Yeah, I'm glad you feel that way because that was definitely a goal that I have is to make it feel like it's really like the story of this semester in their lives, you know, and like
Right.
this is like a chapter of like a larger thing that we don't really get to see. But yeah, it isn't like just Survivor. It's also like this is just what they were doing as friends at this point in time. So it's kind of weird and interesting in that way. So we actually have a surprise guest now. I'm gonna add him to the stream. It's
We got
the
Kevin.
man himself, Kevillin, has joined us.
You're
Grab
even
a
denoting
beer.
me as the villain. Oh, I appreciate Mike for grabbing the beers.
Yeah. So, Kevin, how was it to watch this back? All these years
You know,
later.
I would like to tell the audience, that I texted Ian personally that, I was preparing for this vote and confirming that it was the Will episode with the one where he got voted out. And I told myself that I was going to get intoxicated because I personally thought that this was going to be a difficult episode for me to watch. Nonetheless, Ian's edit made me believe that it was a great experience. I'm glad I saw what happened. I'm glad I kept to my character arc. And we're here now for a surprise guest visit on the Survivor Michigan channel. Hello, everyone. I'm glad all the comments, all my favorites. Ari, I appreciate you for saying you enjoyed my presence on the All-Star season. Mike, I'm glad to see you here. I'll tell you about a fun anecdote future on. So thank you, Ian, for allowing me to guest visit on this.
Yeah, Kevin was just texting me and I was like, yo, you want to just hop? He was like, yeah, I watched the episode. I've been drinking a bit. I was like, oh, you want to hop on the live stream? I'm sure people will be curious to hear what you have to say. So, yeah. You guys have any questions for Kevin? Non-spoilers, obviously. Just about, this episode.
Where'd you get that Viking cup? I'm just kidding.
No. Oh, well, I can answer that question. A Secret Santa gift.
That's a good one.
This year. It is a good one. Yeah. It's it has like a cocoa bean taste to it. And I was not expecting that when it came about. So no matter if it's Bud Light or like a Modelo, it has some cocoa bean in it. So
My real question though, Kevin, is in the beer pong challenge. Because when I watched that back, there was a particular scene that like hurt particularly bad because I lost to Nick in my beer pong challenge season. And I vividly remember him and his friend were just like unstoppably red hot. And I had to watch like a minute of him just missing cups and like couldn't figure it out. But it seemed like there was a lot on the line that maybe wasn't captured in the episode between you and Dylan there shooting beer pong. Did you feel that in the moment?
Yeah, I can address that. So like Dylan's made comments in the edit, right, of saying that like I will never live it down, or he will never live it down, that I defeated him in a beer pong competition, do it up with like me and Leia, and then Dylan and Aaron, right? And I think like what really stemmed from that is, like the personality that I brought to the show is like, if I defeated you, if I'm the one that fucked you over, I'm going to tell it to your face and I'm going to tell you it 10 times to the exact. And that's who I am, at least within the edit. And I think, was it really in my head that, oh, am I here to fuck over Dylan by defeating him in a beer pong competition? No, I think it's just more of like, at the time, at the place of where I was as a human being, that when I saw the beer pong table in front of me, I had to win it. And if I didn't, it would not be a good reflection of my character or of my upbringing within my time as an undergraduate at the University of Michigan. I gotta stop the bits. Every time I see Ian, it's like I get reminded of like the character archetype that I decide to bring onto the show, and he just makes me a different man. So, nonetheless, in summary, did I want to defeat Dylan? Sure, but was it to defeat Dylan or to be proud of myself? It was more about me at the time and place.
I have another question for you, Kevin. So,
Sure.
I feel like from this episode specifically, I feel like we got to see a lot of how Will was like, I'm defending Kevin, like I've got Kevin, but like obviously no spoilers, but like, what was your relationship with Will? How did you feel it was like during this moment in time?
Oh, I think Ian attested to this before I even like joined the call. We had a great relationship ever since he joined, season 3 and even season 4. We were like partners in hand. We had a great relationship, both majoritarily, inside of production. But if we had the opportunity to hang out outside of that, in his lab, it was more fruitful than like something you would say as, something offhand, just a survivor relationship. I think I would argue actually that we had something meaningful. So,
I mean, did you feel bad at all, about like screwing that over, or did it ever cross your mind really that was even a consideration, like the outside of the game relationship? Or for you in the game, was it not a consideration in this moment?
Yeah, I'll let the people watching this, discern that, because I am in, let's argue, an atypical character of a survivor game, right? If I want to pinpoint that even further, right? There's a lot of people in this game, and even Ian's attested to that. This is a game about relationships. This is a game about personalities. This is a game about, do you like a person or not? And when it comes to me, and for the audience, right? Do I give a shit when I play Survivor with you? No. That's a matter of fact. Do I believe I am the main character or the protagonist, even if I'm a substitute character, even if I'm a secondary character? No. Because I think someone this is a shout out to the Keep Your Torch Lit podcast, even though, some episodes I listen to, sometimes I don't. Nonetheless, it's a great podcast. I would attest that, someone has mentioned out there that everyone in Survivor Michigan has a main character syndrome. And I took that 110% in season 2, and I took that to 160% in season 5. And
do you have any...
Sorry, go ahead.
Do you have anything to say to Cooper's testimony in this episode that you always vote for an ally when you go to tribal, at least up to this point in the show? Do you agree with that sentiment regarding your season 2 votes and this vote? Do you think that's a fair criticism or not?
No, I think it is a fair criticism because, when someone's mind thinks like, just like, you can keep it to a point where, I'm obviously going to keep the person that's, respecting me, really trusts me, and is advocating for me, to everyone else that believes I am a snaky piece of shit, right?
All right, there's one from the crowd here, which was that from Shane. We have, was it always Will, or did you ever think about trying to flip it on Emily or Leia? Why Will specifically? Was it, did you know that they wouldn't do that, or what was the reason behind that, I guess? At least in the episode, it makes it seem like it's pretty immediately goes to Will.
I think you can get a hint in my conversation with Bailey on what my thought process with that. And if you look at that conversation, I think that really like pinpoints at least my mind at that point. Now, is it smart? Is it a good perspective? You can figure that out yourself. But at the time, right, a person like myself may be thinking about causing much chaos in this game, however long they may want to. Now, my life could be at the end of the line after this vote. Even myself was surprised, and even watching it again after 3 years when it occurred, I was surprised myself that I saw that I survived this week. And so, well, when you got to look back at it, and it's a little bit of curiosity, right? You just got to figure out that maybe some people aren't playing to win the game, and I'll leave it at that for Ian said it.
All right. Well, any other last questions for Kevin, and then we'll get back to the true stars of this Mike, Cooper, and Ari. Anyone got any last questions for Kevin from either the panel or the thread?
Am I allowed?
Oh wait, no, Ari, you go.
Am I allowed to
Ari.
ask if your relationship with Will ever recovered from this?
Yeah, that's an interesting question.
No, I think it's an interesting question. Someone actually, multiple people within Survivor Michigan texted me this, and hopefully, if Will gets to see this live stream, give or take, I don't know. I believe we're at a cordial environment. We can talk to each other at least. But I do believe, and it's taken me a lot of time to figure this out, that I hope we can like recover the relationship we had post season 3, production season 4, and I can show him my perspective, and he can attest to me how wrong it was, and we can go from there. Nonetheless,
So it sounds like no. It sounds like it hasn't.
I mean, you guys saw how sad Will was. I think, yeah, I don't know.
I don't know, yeah. But before I leave, because Ian said something, Mike, I saw you on the podcast, and that's predominantly the reason why I reached out to Ian. And I think that's because no matter how small it was, and I think that's the great thing about College Survivor, is like even the smallest meeting has an impact to a person in some way, shape, or form. And we had, I think, one meeting where you said, like, you're talking about your life as a senior, and I was talking about my life as a freshman, and you told me about MASH. I don't know if you remember that.
I mean, that's the part that does make me sad a little bit. Is just like
Mhm.
what was it? It was fall, or was it winter even?
It
just was so me on the way out of college. Like,
No, it was winter 18 for you, so that was definitely your last year.
yeah, I mean, it was kind of like a bucket list thing, because there was season 1 out, and I applied for that, and I was like, this is kind of my last chance to really do this, and it was great. I loved it, but even just like seeing how much, it's almost like what did Will say? Like, if you want to join a club that like breaks your heart, like pick Michigan Survivor, but like it seems like it's more than a club. It almost seems like its own like fraternity. Like there's parties, there's so much going on, and that part I wish I could have experienced more of. But like you said, I basically finished up Survivor and graduated like a month later. So yeah, man, it's been fun watching all you guys back in it in season 2 representing. Has anyone from season 2 gone home yet? I don't think so.
No.
Not yet. I think that's the only season, because Akshay went home and Tom was out from season 4. So yeah, the only season that has not lost a player yet, season 2.
Season 2 hanging on.
Yeah,
I'm rooting for all season 2.
Good choice. But I think before I leave, right? I really appreciate that comment, and I hope you got to see the fruition of it through our season of like what season 2 came to be. But I think like when I saw you on this like podcast, and that's when I texted Ian, I think there's one thing I wanted to tell you, and it's a little anecdote, right? So we had a confessional together, and you told me like a lot of it was recorded, but the parts that weren't was when you were telling me about like your time as a senior, celebrating like where you went to go on campus, whether it was MASH or Skeeps. Nonetheless, I think like the important part of that was that like even in my time, like growing from that like freshman impression, is that like you made a large impression on me on how I want my experience at the University of Michigan to be. Now, outside of Survivor, right? Who gives a shit? I'm who I am in Survivor. But like as a student, right? I think that you made such a significant impression on me that like I advocated for my friends and a lot of people within my social sphere, right? To do whatever we can, especially after what happened with COVID, because when I participated, right, is when the COVID conundrum occurred. And then I did a victory lap because I was working virtually. And because of that, I was able to do like a bunch of the dreams a lot of people in a like a senior environment, or like when seniors would tell me freshmen at work. Let me reword that because I'm drunk. When seniors were telling me as a freshman, just like, this is what you got to do at Michigan, just for like a good baseline experience. At least like 2 of the things that you said to go and visit or go and do as a as a freshman, eventually, when you're legal. Made such an impression on me. So I'm glad that you're on the podcast. I'm glad you're still part of the community in some way, shape, or form. But I just wanted to remind you that you've made an impression on me in my life. And I thank you for season 2. And I'm glad you're watching season 5 because I'm still the way I am and I have no regrets.
Cheers, Kevin. Thanks for saying
Cheers,
that,
Mike.
man.
Mhm.
I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for you in all of season 2.
And to the people who really give a shit about College Survivor, watch out for that Chris LeComp narrative. I'll let everyone else
Very
figure that out.
cryptic.
I don't know what that
Very
means. But
Does Kevin really have to leave?
I don't know. I feel like we got to get these other guys came on. I feel like we got to get them their airtime.
No,
I feel like Kevin's sucking up the space.
I don't want to be the star of this live stream. I want to let the people say their thing. And if you say something mean, if you say something nice, do I give a shit? I don't. So goodbye. Have time in your live stream. Say what you want. And sayonara. I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.
See you, Kevin.
Well, that was a quite an appearance from Kevin. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you basically got him to admit with the truth, which is that this did pretty much not destroy, but this really damaged the friendship between Kevin and Will. Like they were really, really good friends before this, and they're
maybe cordial at
now
best.
they're maybe cordial at best 3 years later. So I think this just, there's like genuine stakes to this season. It's not just like voting someone out. And even though it can seem like a game, and when you're watching it, it can feel like a game to the people playing it, especially if you've been waiting years to do this again, and they all have been talking about how they wanted to do this for years. It can feel like a genuine betrayal if somebody who you feel is close to you is willing to do that to you like that early in the game, and you hear Kevin, his point of view is, I don't give a fuck. Like I'll do it to anyone basically. Like you should know this going into it. And that's the great tragedy of it all, is that no one else in the game probably would have put their faith in Kevin like Will did. But of course he's the one who has to suffer for it.
And Ian, with that, I do have a question, because it does seem like there is some contestants who are alluding to this, where it's like, I was lying for months beforehand. Like a lot of it comes through with the Megan and Jackson stuff, where, they were broken up for months before this. So how long did the cast know they were going to be on this season before it actually started?
So officially, nobody found out they were cast until I think 2 weeks before the game started. But a decent number of people either assumed they were going to be cast or thought they might be, and so they were prepping, for months,
just in case, almost
months. Some would say years. Some people Cooper and Sam were accused of spending their whole everything they did was just set up for All Stars, and there was a lot of people wondering at times, was my friendship with so and so real, or were they just pretending to be friends with me because they knew we were going to do this? For example, I remember there's a pre-jury chat we have after people get voted out, and I remember when Will joined the chat, he said a lot of stuff I'm wondering were me and Kevin ever friends, or was it all a lie? Was it all just game? And that's a difficult thing to parse, especially when some people are still playing the game and then you're out of it. And a lot of people were navigating that kind of thing. And same thing with Sam and Megan. It's someone comes over to your house, tells you about this breakup, you talk them through it, ostensibly for hours or days even, and that's a really personal thing. That's not a oh, this is fake sort of thing. It's even for someone like Sam, who I think is one of those consummate gamers, even that was almost something that he couldn't have fathomed that could be happening. I don't know. Also, going back real quick, Cooper, you were talking about the title card thing. So I had said on the last live stream that there was a scene in this episode that was the first thing that was edited for All Stars, and that was the scene. It was Kevin and Bailey talking, Kevin telling her he's flipping on Will, and then into the title card. And the reason why that was the first scene I did was because back in like season 3. I don't know if you guys have seen it or not, but in season 3, there's a similar episode called Ben versus Will, which is like a similar kind of idea. And when we were at the time that I was shooting All Stars, I didn't even really know about Ben versus Will because I hadn't paid a lot of attention to season 3 and 4. And so I was hyping up this like, oh my God, this Kevin versus Will episode is going to be crazy. And they filmed these videos shit talking each other. And Will has this button like where it explodes Kevin's face. This is amazing. And then when I got to season 3 and found out there was a whole Ben versus Will storyline, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to use this to just set up the Kevin versus Will thing. And so originally I wanted the like title cards. This is before I came up with the idea to do title cards for all the All Stars episodes. So at the time there was no title cards in any Survivor Michigan episodes. And I was like, all right, I'll do a title card for Ben versus Will and Kevin versus Will. And that'll be it. And they'll be like mirror episodes basically. And it'll be really, really cool. So I spent like hours and hours picking out this font that I thought looked good for like all 3 of their names. And that it was going to look exactly the same. And then sometime in season 4, I decided I wanted to do title cards for all of the All Stars episodes. So I ended up changing the font, and it all ended up being basically a waste of time. But because of that, there was a version of this Kevin versus Will scene from way back in when I was editing season 3, and it was meant to like really tie in really close together.
That's awesome. I think this episode has a lot of stuff for like from past seasons where it's like, oh, it's happening again. Like Kevin's a villain again. Like, oh, Will's fighting someone again. Oh, Aaron's getting shit on again. Like all of these themes are coming back. And it's really funny just to like, I don't know, like call back on those seasons. I think that's one of the best parts too, because it's so rewarding to watch an all-star season and you can watch 1 through 4, have your favorite characters, and you hear that and you're like, oh, that's crazy that you, even that like back that far, you were like, oh, this is going to set up for this fight. That's really cool.
Yeah. There's a few things like that. And this was definitely one of the big ones. Like, yeah, I saw this episode as like it's like a repeat of the Daniel episode from season 2 and a repeat of like the Ben versus Will episode. And in another really twisted way, Will's arc in this season is very, very similar to what happens to Ben in season 4. So like those two also are like sort of linked by destiny in some weird way where like they have this original rivalry. And then in season 4, Ben also gets voted out in episode 4. He also tries to be way more loyal this time. It also doesn't work out for him, and he gets stabbed in the back by someone he thinks is close to him. So it was like really kind of like Shakespearean sort of the way it went down. And when this was all going down in real life, we were like flabbergasted. Like we could not believe that. Like Cooper, that video I filmed of Cooper where he's eating the cereal, talking about how like he doesn't understand what's going on. Right before that, I wish I had filmed it. Cooper said he had been in the shower for like an hour trying to figure out how this made sense for Kevin or like what the lie was. Like he thought it wasn't. He was like, why is Kevin telling Bailey this? This must be some deeper level of like lie. And he came out of the shower and he was like, I was in the shower for an hour. And my conclusion was, nope, Kevin's just crazy. Like that's the only explanation, because otherwise I don't understand why he's possibly flipping on Will. It makes no sense.
He's not playing 3D chess.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we'll see. We'll have to see.
It was really good. Just seeing him like fly across the screen, like "fuck you, Kevin," and then like writing it in like I don't even know what that was. It just around like I can imagine you guys as like producers being like, "Oh, like Will just submitted some footage. I wonder what it is," and it's that. Like that's great.
Yeah. So each person has a folder for each week of the game. And within his week 4 folder, Will made a new folder that was just called FK, which stood for fuck Kevin. And I remember clicking on it being like, what is this? And I was like, what the fuck? And it was just all this crazy stuff. Like there'll be more in the bonus scenes too. There was some really good Will lines that had to get cut, obviously, just because Will has too many good lines for the episode. But yeah, it was a sad day. And yeah, personally speaking, Will's one of my favorite characters on the show, and I was gutted to see him go this soon. But I do think it was great TV, and maybe he couldn't have maybe gone in a better fashion. So,
yeah, I definitely think too. Someone said in the comments, like when he's like, "Here I am, like day 1 of like Survivor Michigan," it's like, oh, like he cares so much, and you can tell that. And I love when like these players care so much.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like I had texted Kevin asking him what he meant by Lecomte, and he's telling me that him and Bailey, their friendship formed from like watching Survivor Maryland, and that like impacted them or something. Yeah, he said Maryland All Stars was coming out during season 2. We were filming it. and that him and Bailey really liked Chris Lecomte, and that's what he meant by that. I don't know. That if you can make sense of that, that's maybe Kevin could explain it better, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. Have you guys ever I don't know, like, do you think you could get over it if you were Will?
I think so. I mean, I think Will is an emotionally driven person, so it'd be hard to relate at that level. But I mean, from my perspective, I feel like I got to where I got in my season with some of the people that I was closest with. And, I knew that, at some point I was probably going to get voted out. And I'm not sure what kind of path I necessarily had to win it, or if there even was one, or if I was just kind of at some point just playing a loyalty game and seeing just at like a use case of how that turns out. But, it's not like, again, as a senior, things were wrapping up, but like I never had any like ill contempt towards like Sarah or Mallory or any of those folks. And anytime I kind of get the opportunity to chat with them, and it's few and far between, but I always get excited to say hey and just see what's going on. I think Mallory recently got married, and Sarah is out doing Sarah things. I know she does the Keep Your Torch Lit podcast and all that. So it's just fun to keep tabs with people. I certainly don't have any ill feelings or like broken relationships over being voted out or anything like that.
Yeah, I think maybe an aspect of it too is like Will maybe was hurt by the fact like that maybe it didn't make the most sense, but like Kevin said himself, like
fair.
Some people just aren't playing to win. That's what he said. So I think you definitely, when you get voted out, you're like, oh, why? And when the reason's like, whatever, like I can see the like, but I would definitely still have like reconnected and everything like that. But yeah, that's.
I think part of what makes College Survivor so interesting to me is the length that it goes on, and like the fact that there's no real prize. Like it's not like $1 million that you're playing for. And so it's like these are people who you've spent like months becoming friends with, and then on an all-star season it's like Will had been waiting like a little less than a year to play again, and to have like to be voted out because of somebody who like you put your neck like on the line for. I feel like that would definitely like really hurt and just be like really frustrating just personally, because it's like he could have not done that and like not tried to help Kevin out. So I mean, I think you could definitely get over it after 3 years, but I do think it might take, at least personally, I think it would take me a while.
You guys make great points. It's kind of like not all situations are the same, whether or not you can like understand the move, or just like, I was really excited for this because from my perspective, I applied and found out I was going to be on it within like 2 weeks. It wasn't like, to your point there, like I've been waiting for a year for this opportunity or anything like that. So yeah, I felt bad for Will. There's no doubt about that. And I am going to miss Will's banter. That's for sure. Like he was one of my favorite, like I'm going to miss Will in the car. I think that's some of my favorite scenes is just Will sitting in the car, just like picking his own brain.
All right. Kevin wants back in.
Kevin's back in. I knew it. Are we going to now get Will back in? Get Will in.
No. Ian's putting me under their bus. I told him if they want a Chris Lecomte comparison, I can explain that too. I know there's a lot of Survivor collegiate fans within the Discords, the YouTube scenarios. Now I'm a lurker. If you want to figure him out, do your best. I try to test you, to figure him out who I am within the Survivor Reddit Discord. Nonetheless, you won't see me comment on there until you figure it out. Nonetheless, I keep on saying that because I am in a tipsy episode. The why I want to explain the parallel between Chris Lecomte, and it goes back to a lot of big thing that was actually never seen in the edit, because I think the big thing about collegiate survivors is when you take into the people that apply, they either know about CBS Survivor, or they're just applying because they just saw it on their Facebook page, on a group page for their university. And I had the fortunate experience between Bailey and I to talk about, even on day one, talking about, Survivor Maryland. And I thought that was impressive. I thought that was really cool, right? Because there's a lot of good college survivors out there. Scotty Survivor for Carnegie Mellon, Survivor Boston, Survivor Michigan, and even Survivor Maryland. I had to take a contemplation for that, but that's because I am not in the right place of mind for this, because I had to watch this episode tonight. Nonetheless, what I want to say is that, Bailey and I's relationship may have instigated or started off from this understanding that we both watched Survivor Maryland. And then after that, a bunch of Survivor Maryland seasons came about. And then Survivor Michigan was starting to come into fruition. Season 2 was just coming about, and there was a lot of archetypes, a lot of assumptions made based off of that season alone.
Is this story gonna spoil Maryland All Stars?
It won't. Don't worry. I made confirmation about that before I came about on this season. And I think that for the people that saw the earlier part of the live stream or compared myself to Chris Lecomte, that's for you to decide, not me. I think that's the only thing I want to say to the audience. Do you see me as a Chris Lecomte? Do you not see me as a Chris Lecomte? Based off of the edit, based off of my experiences. And I think the last point that I will say is that if you think I am the dumbest Survivor player in the world, that's for you to figure out. I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.
All right, thanks for joining us, and I'm not letting you back in if you join the link again. So that was your last shot this time. He just popped back in. I was like, all right, whatever. Let's see what this clown has to say. I was curious what he meant by Chris Lecomte as well. So, what do you guys think? Do you guys know? Have either of you guys watched? Have any of you guys watched Maryland All Stars? Do you know who Chris Lecomte is?
Yes.
I don't.
Do you feel like Kevin's a Chris Lecomte, Cooper?
Can
I
someone
can see some
summarize what a
comparisons,
Chris
honestly.
Lecomte?
Chris
would be?
Lecomte, I would put him more in like the like a Cooper or a Sam going into this season, where like he was the one in Maryland All Stars who just like was friends with like everybody. Like he
Okay.
like was like he like knew everybody, and especially in the early part of the game, like no spoilers for later on, but in like the very early part of the game, it was known that he was like talking to everybody, and kind of similar to Cooper, there was like a lot of people that wanted to kind of make a move on him, but they were like terrified to even like suggest it because they were worried like that somebody would tell him and it would all come for him. But he also had that giant threat level where you knew at some point like maybe this won't be good for him. But in like the very beginning of the game, it was like he was like protected just by like the sheer enormity of like who he was kind of coming into it.
Interesting.
I don't know if I would necessarily call Kevin a Chris Lecomte, but I think he maybe in terms of like the frattiness, sort of like a similar kind of frat angle. I don't know.
Roger, I would disagree with you.
Yeah, he's saying that Kevin is Chris Lecomte. I guess we'll have to see. That's for you to decide, as Kevin says. Well, this has been an adventure. Any other thoughts people have? I'm trying to think of other stuff that happened in the episode that we haven't covered. Who else do we feel good about just in general? Who else do you guys like so far? Who do you think is going far?
I think
I'll say-
Bailey's
go
going
ahead.
far. Bailey, I think she's going far.
With Kevin or without Kevin?
Ooh.
Yeah, is that duo gonna, now that they're back together, are they gonna, run the game?
I don't know. Unfortunately, I feel like she's gonna cut Kevin soon, and I think she'll go far without him.
I agree with the Bailey. I think this episode specifically, earlier I was maybe thinking that she could potentially go earlier. I feel like the edit was like, oh, look at her in this challenge. Like, but when like everybody just went for Emily P, I think over her. I think that was like, oh, she has these connections in this game, so like she can go further.
So I'm rooting for all my like season 2 people, but one person in particular who I am rooting for is Sarah. I love her little whiteboard sessions. I like how she has a picture for everyone, and I particularly like how Tom just says Tom written on paper. It makes me laugh every time I see it. Like, couldn't find a picture. I'm guessing Tom doesn't have a Facebook, maybe. But the fact that it's an all-star season and you have like a first boot, I think that more all-stars should do that. Like the token first boot, kind of like see how they measure up against the all-stars. And I actually think to some extent it might be an advantage because everyone has some sort of intel on how everyone else plays the game, right? Like people or like Will is begging the question of, will Kevin play the same game? But like no one knows what kind of game Sarah would have played. So I'm interested to see what she can do. I think she's been a great character, and also I can't help but root for an underdog.
I agree with that. I think coming in, you're right. She can kind of make you think whatever you want about the way she plays the game because she never
Right.
got to really play. So I think that looks very appealing too as somebody to work with going into like a merge scenario when you're like, all right, we've dealt with all these pregame connections before. Now it's time where they really matter. We really got to start taking shots. Why would you take shots at her when she was just the first boot when you have these other like ginormous players? I think she can really capitalize off that. And I'm like, if Cooper gets voted out, I think she has to be one of the people that votes Cooper out. Just the way that she's like, oh, I can't get him right now, but I will in the future. Like, it's very funny to watch her every few episodes. Just be like, damn it, Cooper.
The day since Cooper screwed me was pretty hilarious.
Yeah, how high do we think that's gonna get?
2 weeks. I appreciated you kind of keeping it tracked, at least in that episode, Ian, of like we're at day 7. And you had like the little like acronym for it.
Yeah, the plan is to keep that going, so we'll have to see how long it lasts before one of them screws the other one again. Yeah, who else? Anyone else you guys feel good about, or anyone you feel really bad about? Like you think they're in big trouble? Like, how do we feel about Megan and Jackson now that their secret is like fully exposed? But Jackson did find an idol this episode, so
I shouldn't feel this way, but I feel like they're gonna go further than like people are saying. I don't know. I think again, the fear that someone has an idol is like crazy especially when you're playing such a high stakes game that like they might try and like maneuver around like Megan or Jackson if they do potentially have an idol. And I think Megan's just kind of at the point like, well, it's like everyone knows my secret, but like she could have been cut for that and she wasn't. So now she's kind of here like, anyone want to work with me? And this episode, people said yes. Everyone said yes. So
it was weird to me how she went from like chopping block, like it's Megan this week, to like then it's a battle of Will and Kevin. So like there's something about her where it almost like she repels like these conversations. But I didn't mean to cut you off there, Ari.
Oh, no worries. I really hope Megan and Jackson go far. And with Jackson finding the idol especially, it makes me think back to like season 4 with his like first John, dear children, keep yourselves from the idols thing. So I wonder how the idol's going to work out for him.
he did say that back in season 4. Perhaps some other foreshadowing at play. Hard to say. Yeah, how do you guys feel about Lucy? Mike, your old season 2 buddy.
Yeah, I wanted to answer that question. I've been loving Lucy on this episode. I think she's been hilarious. That whole little bit you did with or whoever did editing that with like her like determining it's a fake idol, like I don't even remember what you said, but like not worded properly and just like the thing she was saying was just hilarious. But honestly, she seems like she is a much more serious threat this time around. When I played, I think she was a freshman. And how much later was this? Was this 2 or 3
This
years
would have
later?
been for a year and a half later. So she was
Year
a
and a half
freshman
later.
and now she's a junior in this one.
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone would look at themselves differently as a freshman and a junior, but it is cool. I think Lucy's playing a nice game. I agree with folks who say they think she might make a deep run. It certainly feels that way. And I'm excited to see Lucy. I also appreciated that little like token ad you had of me there, Ian, in the first episode of like, I hope Lucy gets a chance at All Stars. Here we are.
Yeah.
She got her shot.
Another thing that I had a lot when editing All Stars going into is I wanted it to be like the Avengers Endgame of Survivor Michigan. And like as many people as possible from the previous seasons who were on All Stars, I was gonna find a way to like shoehorn in for at least like a second. And so like I was like, I'll find all the clips of people talking about All Stars, and I'll use a couple of people who aren't going to be on the season to like juice it up a little bit, So
it just surprised me turning on the first episode. I'm like, and I'm already in it.
Yeah, you probably didn't expect that the first like 10 seconds.
Not at all. Not at all.
That's funny. Yeah, I forgot about that. I forgot that was in there. So yeah, that was Mike's little cameo, and we had Shannon in there. We'll see who else pops up throughout. But who do you guys feel like is in a really bad spot? Like who's definitely getting out soonish?
I have a really bad feeling about Leia specifically. From what I've seen so far, like her first conversation with Jackson, and she's like, "I'm not working with you," and then this is like, "I'm not voting out my tribe." I think she's like too like. She's making a decision preemptively and like kind of like whatever. I think she's gonna like call some people out, but I think you're like editing her to get like a big downfall or something would be my prediction. I just think in like an all-star season, it seems like she's kind of shutting out a lot of options, which could hurt her, especially if she's not with Cooper.
Yeah, interesting takes on Leia. Ari, Mike.
Think like Aaron is like, I mean, obviously Sam brought her into that tribe before that was devastating for her, but I'm trying to remember who were the other 4 that got added on. Like, is that going to be a positive for her, or does it continue to put her in a tough spot?
It was her, Sam, Adam, and Lucy. They got matched with Sarah, Nick, Jackson, and Bree. So she's with Jackson.
Right.
Yeah, and then we see in this episode that at least Bree wants to work with her, and Jackson, and Sarah and Nick are a little more in the middle, but seemingly not opposed to working with her for sure.
Right. I think what I find hard about that question is like, in a weird way, sometimes I feel like the bottom becomes like a safe spot. Because like it feels like when there's someone who's like the obvious, then that opens the door for like, well, if it's obvious this week, maybe we can make a big move. And then all of a sudden, like the people who are near the top, maybe not quite at the top, are all of a sudden at the chopping block. So it doesn't feel like it follows a normal progression at all anymore in Survivor of like that person's on the bottom, they're probably going next. It's just like your stock is low one day, and then the next week and fly right up to the top.
Yeah, I'm definitely. I think the fact that Jackson found the idol clue is definitely very worrying for Aaron specifically. But what we've been saying that every episode now. So Aaron has a way of just hanging in there, and like I don't know how she does it, but she has continuously been on the bottom of almost like every vote. But like she's a fighter, and I'm sure she's going to fight with Jackson. I don't know how, like, maybe Jackson could realize, like, oh, everybody wants me out, and then, like, maybe plays idol on Aaron. Maybe something crazy like that happens. But I feel like with the tribe that she's given, I feel like Nick, I think, is going to go towards more Sam and Lucy and Adam and, like, try to vote out, like, a Jackson or an Aaron would be my prediction. And then also, Bree is also doing really great this season, too, I would say. There's really been nothing negative about her. And I almost wonder if like she's killing it like a little too much, and people are like, "Wait, everyone loves her. Let's vote her out." So yeah.
Yeah, I thought it's a low key, very savvy move for her to pick Jackson early on in the draft, because she's kind of like I think she recognizes that he's someone that could just be picked up as a number, and like her confessional there is like a low key, really sneaky sort of move where she's like, I just wanted to show him that like some people from Sangria did appreciate him, and like it's kind of it's like just kind of thrown in there, but very sneaky on Bree's part. I think that's good gameplay.
Yeah, it's similar to like Jesse being like, "Oh, I have Bree on this side or Leia on this side." It's like no one's expecting these like girls to think of that, and then they come out and they're like again, she knows what she's doing and she's like preparing for it, which is really impressive.
I also think that having worked with Nick and having watched back my season and watching what I've seen this season, it's really important to keep Nick like understanding what the plan is, because if you don't keep Nick in the loop or up to date, he's going to go make his own plan very quickly, and all of a sudden you may not be anywhere near what that plan is going towards. I feel like I've noticed little inklings of that where like he's mentioning things like, oh, I don't really like how this is panning out for my game, and I feel like the second you hear a comment like that from Nick, it's like all of a sudden he's off to do like talking with all these people and he's got this crazy plan. And, that's one of the things I look back at my own game and just like, man, I wish I had kept him a little bit more in the know, because he just like completely changed up his game. And at the end of the day, really just like fractured our ability to work together. And I think Nick is a very sharp player. I think Nick could sneakily go really far in this season, just like he kind of went sneakily far in season 2. And in a lot of ways, I understand the argument that he should have won season 2.
Ari, what do you think? Who do you think is doing well, not doing well? Anyone we haven't discussed you want to bring up?
I think kind of going back to Erin, like it definitely seems like she's not in the greatest position, but I think she like proved in her season that she plays pretty well from the bottom. I'm also just really excited to see her reaction to Will going home.
Yeah, there was also in the episode, Will was like, "Oh, like we have to get rid of Erin. Like she's got to go." It's like you haven't even touched a tribe with her. What are you? Why is Erin in your mouth? What are you doing? Like they're just like these people just love to hate Erin. Oh my god.
Yeah, the season 3 drama runs very deep. Yeah, Mike, if you don't know anything about that, you should check out that season at some point. It's a roller coaster of people just hating each other.
I have not seen that season.
If you like Will, there's a lot more Will Carr scenes in that one. So
I like Will a lot. Will. Also, someone who I feel like we haven't really talked about very much is Dylan. And I think one of the funnier things in this season, it's like when he was filming all those cameos, like I really didn't find it that funny, but the way they've snuck them in makes me laugh every time. Even after he's gone, like, what are you doing? Like that one, I think might be my favorite
one. That's my favorite one. Yeah.
I feel like, Ian, from your perspective, there's probably so many little opportunities to just plop that right into the episode.
I have a rule for myself that like when Dylan was in the game, you could have a couple per episode. After he's out of the game, it's got to be like one or two per episode, because it does. I think
it's his legacy.
It could get overplayed, but it also is like part of having Dylan on the show. Like that's like his shtick, and so I thought it was like for the big Dylan fans, it kind of sucks that he goes home so early. But again, this is like a fun way to like keep including him throughout. It's like his goofy cutaway gag, and it kind of gets funnier and funnier the more you like. At first, it's not that funny, and then like it goes like. The more you see
it's very funny.
The funnier it gets.
It's very funny.
Like the funnier it gets, basically, and it's just like there is something hilarious about it. Yeah,
I'm so glad you decided to keep those in. I think for season 3, he was like at the end of every episode, like, wow, that was something. But when you're watching All Stars, you don't know where he's going to show up, and then he shows up. He's like, "Is she looking for that idol?" Or like she comes up randomly.
Yeah. Give me that idol! I want that idol. No, the other one that I thought was really good was him saying like, "None of this matters. I already got my trophy. Like, who cares?" That one's funny, but you can't use it that often because there's not a lot of opportunities for it. But I thought that was just hilarious. That just like at the end of the day, I already won, so really, who cares?
And he's the only previous winner, right?
Yeah, he was. Try to get if there's anybody we haven't touched on before we get out of here. I think we've hit on pretty much everybody. Cooper, how do you guys think Cooper's gonna do?
I'm really interested to see like the Cooper and Leia fallout next episode from Will being voted off, because it seemed like Leia didn't know. I mean, maybe she did, but her reaction, like when Will was voted out, seemed like she didn't know Cooper was going to do that.
Yeah, I'll say that like I don't consider this a spoiler really, that like pretty much everybody kind of knew what was going to go down. But like Leia, like Bailey and Cooper are not going to lie to Leia and Emily about what they're doing this vote. But in a similar way, like Leia and Emily were like not going to like vote against Will, just to like be in the numbers. That's like not really something they're going to do. It's not really how their games work. So like they like more or less knew kind of what was happening, and there wasn't like it was a serious discussion. Like that stuff of Will pitching them, he made some good points, and then Bailey, Cooper, and Andrew sat down near the end of the day and like decided what they were going to do. And there was a decent. I think there's a world where Will saves himself, honestly, because I think the pitches he made were really good, and I think they really considered them. But ultimately, by the very, very end, Will knew he was going home. As you can see him like lose his mind, sort of like he kind of knew what was going to happen. I'm glad that scene between him and Kevin before Tribal, I'm so happy that got filmed. I like didn't know about that scene till like I went to the footage, years after the fact. Like I didn't realize they had even talked right before Tribal because I was off filming a different area. So like I think Austin got that. I'm not totally sure, but whoever did, major props to them, because that's an amazing scene of the two of them. And you can just like see Kevin trying to work his way through it and not having anything to say. And it's just when he's like, I know you're hurting, I'm hurting more, or like whatever he's trying to say, you're just like, dude, what are you talking about right now?
Yeah, it definitely felt like Kevin in that like 30-minute window was a little shook. Like, and I can respect that, right? Like, like your actions are gonna deeply hurt someone else. Like no one likes that feeling. And unfortunately with Survivor, right, there is more and more likelihood that you're going to run in those situations. But I mean, overall, that whole episode was just fun to watch. I thought that the progression of who's getting voted out was pretty much a roller coaster. It felt like it was like likely Megan, and then Megan wasn't even talked about. And then of course it ended up being Will, but like, yeah, I mean, the whole season so far, I just think has been really fun to watch.
Definitely. I will say, like, going back to Cooper too, I think the way he handled this was really great. He's just like he has all these connections, and he's like kind of in the middle, and he's like, oh, this is the problem. And then like 30 minutes later in episodes, he's like, all right, we're good. I'm in the middle. I have this side. I have this side. We're fine. And it's like, holy, like, how the hell is he doing this? And I feel like from what I've been watching, it seems like him and Sam are like those two like kind of big players that have all these connections, and like they are gonna probably go far. I think maybe Cooper probably goes further than Sam, but like you want to be like, there's no way he wins though, right? Like there's no way, right? And then you're like, why is he making it this far? So I don't know how he's gonna do, but he's killing it so far.
Yeah, knowing that like Leia knew Will was going and like was, like, I guess kind of okay with it. I think that actually puts Cooper in a lot better of a position to like be on opposing sides with Leia, but where they're both like probably gonna protect each other. And so like they'll be able to share that information maybe about like where the vote's going, even if like one of them knows it's not gonna work out in their favor, but it's probably not gonna be them.
With Cooper, I thought it was interesting that he had that comment. It wasn't in this episode, I don't think, but where he was saying, like, I think there's a lot of people who would want to take me to 7 or 8. And I think that makes a lot of sense. It's interesting that he has that kind of thought process, especially this early in the game. But I would say, like, if I was on that season, I would just have my eyes and ears open for any opportunity to get him out, just because, knowing how well connected he is in that. I mean, he was the freaking host of my season. So like he's very well connected. And, the more I've started to watch and even just chatting with you all, like there's serious relationships that have impacts into this game that go back at least a year, it sounds like. And Cooper's got to have, Ian, would you argue that is there anyone else who has more connections within that cast other than Cooper?
I think Cooper came into it with the most connections because Cooper had some kind of relationship with every single person because he had hosted all their seasons.
Right.
So he is number one. And then I'd say that like Sam was like number two probably. And then there's a few other people like below that there was a large number of people I would say who all had like pretty strong connections throughout, Aaron, all the season 3 people, Aaron, really at that point, it gets to like everybody from all the from seasons like 2 and 3. The season 4 people were a little more on the outs, I think. And I think some of the season 1 people also were a little more on the outs, but those season 2 and 3 people, they knew like tons and tons of people. They had the thing that's interesting is the season 3 people knew, like they also had all these connections, but some of theirs, they had more like burned bridges as well than any of the other groups of people,
Oh yeah.
Like
That's
they came
fascinating.
the season 3 people came into it with, they all had like enemies. A lot of the other seasons didn't have that. So that was an interesting dynamic at play, as well.
I think there was something in one of the earlier episodes, and I think this is Cooper said something about Aaron. He was like, I know people want me 8th, they want me 7th, but like Aaron will take me to the end, and I need to fight for that. And I think Cooper needs to find those people like Aaron, who I think are rare in Survivor. Like they will like loyalty is a lot for them, and I think we could potentially see something like that because he has the Phantom vote. Right? Yeah, he has the Phantom vote.
Yeah,
so
he does have the Phantom vote.
If Aaron's in danger, like I can see him trying to finagle like maybe safety for Aaron and voting for them or something, because I think he needs people like that. And I don't know with like this cast if there are many people other than maybe even Aaron that'd be like, yeah, I'll take Cooper to the end with me.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to see. Well, it's midnight Eastern, so I feel like we could I don't want to take up too much more of you guys' time. I know everybody's, hardworking or in school or stuff and needs to get some sleep. So is there anything else you guys wanted to say before we get out of here, basically, I guess?
No, thanks for having me on. It was great to meet you all and chat with Kevin. To be honest, didn't know that I had made such an impact on his college experience, but it sounds like it was a positive one, and I'm really glad to hear that. And I'm excited to watch more of the season. And if you ever need someone to come on and shoot the shit, Ian, just let me know.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, great analysis as always, and it's definitely really fun. You're one of the very few people from the previous seasons who like doesn't know what happened. So that's why I was really excited.
I'm not withholding anything.
Yeah, when I found out that you were completely unspoiled, I was like, all right, we got to have Mike on, because almost everybody else from Survivor Michigan like kind of knows at least something.
Nah, not me.
I know. So that's great. That's what makes you a great, because I would love to have tons of former players on, but a lot of them know a little bit too much to really give like thorough analysis, to be honest. But yeah,
you have my number.
Yeah, we'll have to get you, Kevin, and Will on. You can have a little mediation session between them. See if they can get past. See if they can get past cordial. Yeah.
That'd be
Cooper,
great.
Ari, do you guys want to plug, your own Survivors or what's going on with those? Where can we check those out, or when can we?
Yeah, sure. So Survivor Yukon has 2 seasons out already. We're working on our 3rd. There's some great ones. There's some great seasons coming up too. So yeah, definitely go check out our YouTube channel. We're also doing applications for our 9th season now. So if anyone watching goes to Yukon and hasn't played, you should play.
Yeah, Survivor Georgia Tech, we just finished our 1st season last semester, and we're about to start editing for that. So probably don't expect episodes from us for a bit, but you could follow us on Instagram at Survivor Georgia Tech. And it's really great, really fun. Survivor Michigan was definitely what inspired me to start it. So always grateful to Survivor Michigan. and you know, these episodes are the highlight of my Wednesday night. So very excited to be here.
Thank you. It's good to know everyone seems to be enjoying it so far. You know, obviously it was like a crazy amount of work, and I'm still like finishing up some of the later episodes, but it's been really fun to see everybody enjoying it. And this was one of those episodes like that I've been waiting years and years and years for people to see. Like at like as far back as, you know, Ben versus Will, as far back as like anything I was doing editing, I was like, I cannot wait for the Kevin and Will episode, because I just thought it was like dynamite TV and just like so crazy. And you just would never see something like that on Real Survivor, where like you could like it's really fucked up, but you're like watching a friendship end before your eyes. It's like you can't look away. It's crazy. And I was like, yeah, that's gonna be amazing TV. And there's a lot more moments. There's a lot more moments that I'm really excited to see what people think about them as it goes on. And if you're from a college survivor out there that we have like not had on this after show yet, and you like want to come on, like please message me. I found out my Twitter is Ian Harris 2016. The first time I didn't know what my Twitter was, so now I know my Twitter because I'm an idiot. But now I know what my Twitter is. My Twitter is, let's make sure I get this right, actually. Yeah, it's Ian B Harris 2016. DM me on Twitter or DM the Survivor Michigan Twitter, the Survivor Michigan Instagram, whatever. And I'll try to have on every college survivor possible at some point this season. So like if you have not been on, message us, and love to have you guys on again. This was great fun. And yeah, I've seen.
Say, before we end, like Ian, holy shit, these episodes are so well edited. It's insane. Like the way like that you've been doing all this is absolutely just mind blowing to me. It looks so good. It's amazing. It's really good, and I think everyone sees that. It's great.
Thanks, man. Thank you. It means a lot. So happy to
Thanks
hear
for all
that.
you do, Ian.
Yeah. So yeah, this has been the Survivor Michigan episode 4 after show, and tune in next week for more craziness, and check out Survivor UConn, Survivor Georgia Tech, and all the survivors out there, except for the bad ones. But like, you know, don't check out the bad ones. I don't know what the bad ones are, but I don't know what I said. I don't know why I said that. I also had a beer tonight. I got a little bit drunk, Kevin. To me, it's CBS. CBS is the bad one. You know, at least in recent seasons, we're kind of so. All right, see you guys later.